Let me just say that it's been more than 2.5 years since Superstorm Sandy devastated New York and New Jersey, and so many of my constituents, especially those in hard-hit Monmouth and Ocean counties, are still recovering today. It is not over for them. The nightmare continues. As many of you are well aware, the federal response was far from perfect. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, recently reopened all Sandy-related flood claims due to widespread fraud and a complete lack of oversight over the National Flood Insurance Program. Bipartisan delegations, as I think you know, and Nydia, you were certainly a part of this, from New Jersey and New York fought hard to secure critical funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Despite huge remaining unmet needs, HUD chose only to make nearly $1 billion in Sandy supplemental funding through the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Program available to applicants unaffected by Sandy. With that in mind, I'm here today to shed some light on a hardship, an emerging problem that really has to be rectified, now faced by homeowners who were actively encouraged and in many cases pressured to apply for a Small Business Administration disaster assistance. They did so not only to determine their eligibility for home disaster loans, but also to qualify for additional future relief. Due to a complete lack of information, however, and disclosure in the loan process, many Sandy victims now find themselves ineligible, I repeat, ineligible for further relief through various grant programs. To illustrate, and I do have a letter from a constituent of mine from Manasquan, who said that they liquidated, it was so bad, and they wanted to get their home back into a working order, that they liquidated their retirement savings to pay down debts taken out to finance their children's college education just to qualify for a home disaster loan. This not only decimated their savings, but also resulted in a substantial tax penalty, $52,000, for the early retirement withdrawal. They subsequently applied for relief through New Jersey's Reconstruction, Rehabilitation, Elevation, and Mitigation Program, or REM, that's the HUD program, only to be shocked to learn, and I mean shocked. I mean, when they called my office, they couldn't believe that this was happening, of their ineligibility for a grant reward solely because they had qualified for and accepted the SBA loan, a circumstance that they were never informed about during the loan process. As they emphasized in their letter to me, this begs the question, if they had been fully informed of potential consequences, would they have taken the SBA loan? And the answer is a decided no. With more than 32,000 SBA disaster home loans approved following Sandy, there is no telling how many homeowners have found themselves in a similar situation. I'm sure that today's witnesses can speak to the pile of papers presented to the homeowner during the loan closing, and it will be helpful to hear whether SBA had any discussions with HUD and their state grantees on this issue. While HUD provided guidance in July of 2013 allowing grantees to provide assistance to Sandy victims who had qualified but declined an SBA loan, they have done nothing to assist the families who acted in good faith to immediately begin the rebuilding process. Last month, I sent a letter to both SBA and HUD requesting further guidance, specifically permitting CDBG-DR grantees to provide grants awards to Sandy victims who previously accepted an SBA loan, at least for the purposes of paying down that loan. I also asked that this matter be referred to the SBA's Office of Inspector General to determine what action or inaction led to so many Sandy victims being left in the dark regarding this critical information. This very issue should not have been overlooked by SBA, nor should it have come as a surprise. Following the Gulf hurricanes in 2005 and Midwest flooding in 2008, SBA's OIG released a report entitled, and I quote, SBA's role in addressing duplication of benefits between SBA disaster loans and community development block grants, detailing a serious lack of communication and agreement between federal agencies regarding the Stafford Act's duplication of benefit requirements. If the federal government itself has failed to understand the implications of these requirements, how can they be counted on to explain it to disaster survivors? While SBA has taken steps to improve its coordination with FEMA and HUD, it has failed to communicate with the survivors it is tasked to assist. Homeowners considering home disaster loans must be fully aware of their potential preclusion from further assistance. In post-storm chaos, these loans were the primary option for homeowners needing to rebuild. And again, if you didn't rebuild quickly, the water damage got worse, the black mold got worse. And when there was no sense of what might be offered in the future, they grabbed the SBA loan only to find again they were precluded from any other further grant, not loan, but grant in the future. Those who accepted home disaster loans should not, as I said, be precluded from future HUD assistance. Sandy victims made great sacrifices to rebuild and recover, and unfortunately did so with incomplete or misinformation through no fault of their own. No two disasters are the same, and the recovery process will vary based on the level of federal support provided. But we must not continue to ignore the lessons learned from these terrible experiences. It is egregious that these Sandy victims have been what they've been put through, and they must be provided an equitable solution. And again, this on top of the national flood insurance problem debacle just begs the question, we've got to get this right. I would ask that my letter, Mr. Chairman, be included in the record, as well as a Associated Press article entitled Buyer's Remorse, Loans Impacting Grant Money for Sandy Victims, that was put over the wire last December.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank
you very much.